Hello everyone, this is Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio. Today I'm sharing with you two ATCs that I made for a swap in a Google Plus community. The first place that I ever found people that liked art like me online was in Google Plus communities, G Plus communities, which I still belong to a few of them, so I highly recommend it. ATCs, that stands for Artist Trading Card, if you didn't know. And they are 2.5 by 3.5 little bits of art that you can keep in one of those sleeves that has the 9 pockets for baseball cards or Pokemon cards, if anybody remembers those. And so they're just fun, and this group that I'm in has decided to do ATCs now instead of tag. So I've started out with watercolor paper that is cut to 2.5 by 3.5, and it is 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper. It has a rough side and a smooth side, so earlier you might have seen me flip it over. Then I used distress inks and I smushed them onto it, and then I sprayed it with water to mix it around. Distress inks are extremely water reactive. They are so water reactive that sometimes it becomes annoying. But in this case, that was what I wanted. I wanted to make a very bright background. So I was able to do that with the distress inks. And I like those little tiny ones. I don't have all the colors in the big size. I just have the little tiny ones because I don't use it that often. But it works out really great. Then I used some 3D gloss gel. This is a thick gloss medium. And I put that through a homemade stencil of some sun rays that I made because I didn't have one. And so I've had it for a while and it's kind of beat up, but it worked out okay. And then I set that aside to dry. And I'm working on my second one. This swap requires that you have 2 different cards in the theme, which was summer. So I'm making a drawing, and I cut out the drawing part because that's boring and you can't see it anyway. I see that I need to, when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I need to do something about the glare. I'm filming with my phone and I'm really not that good at it. But the glare on my background is making it hard for you to see what I'm doing. But now I'm inking using my Pitt artist pens. They are India ink, so they're permanent. So I can use water-soluble media over the top. So I just made a little drawing. You know, I do that sometimes. I draw, and I need to ink it, and then I'm going to watercolor it after that. So this is the size S in the set, which is this small, obviously. There's an extra small, a small, medium, you know. There's a brush tip, there's a chisel tip. It's a nice little set if you like to illustrate because it is permanent, doesn't bleed. They're nice pins. I had to add something else in the water there. I drew a little crab that's about to crawl on the beach. But it's basically just a little beach scene. It's got a chair and a sand castle and a sand bucket and some shells and some water. And as far as perspective goes, I didn't make it straight on. I intentionally put it kind of at an angle because I think that's more visually appealing than if everything was just looking at you straight on. So that's why I do that. I like things to be tweaked a little bit to the left or to the right. Sorry, my throat's like that. So then I got out my Koi watercolors. This is the travel set. This is the only one I have, but they're nice, highly pigmented watercolors, and I spritzed all the cakes so that they would already be a little bit moist when I went to pick up the watercolor. Oh man. And I started out with my water barrel brush, but I switched to my new fat watercolor brush that's like a very expensive one. I got it at Dick Blick. Did you know there's only one Dick Blick in the entire state of Arizona? That's really crazy. But we went up to Phoenix for a concert, and I made the people I was with stop there because I wanted to go to a real art store. Man, I wanted to go to a real art store. So this is a very thirsty brush. It holds a lot of water. And I'm going to try to learn how to watercolor better. You know, like real watercolor people, not just using it for coloring, which is basically what I'm doing. I do know that you can put the clear water where you want it, which is what I'm doing, and then you add the pigment after the fact, and it kind of makes a nice effect by sucking into the water, and then it leaves the dry parts alone. Theoretically, it should. I did have a little bit of places where I must have got water where I didn't intend to, because water's clear, so it's hard to see and you don't really know that you're putting it there. But the nice thing is that you can then take a clear water on a brush and go back over that and pick it up and clean up the little messes that you made pretty well. So I'm using a different blue for the sky than I did for the ocean. And I also did put like a little seafoam greenish type edge on the ocean as well. And, sand color, which is just kind of an ochre or a raw sienna, I'm not sure. I'm going back in and adding a little bit of a darker color around the edges of things to make it look like there's shadows. I'm basically doing exactly what I do when I color with anything else, only I'm just using watercolors instead. Because this is watercolor paper and it's designed to be absorbent and to let you do this. So I wanted to give it a try. I'm impatient, so I do use my heat tool when I feel that there needs to be a drying session rather than just waiting for it to dry. On a bigger piece, you could work on a different section of the piece while you're waiting for the area that you just watercolored to dry, but this is so tiny, so I didn't. I just used my heat tool to dry it. So this is a teak folding up beach chair with a striped look to it, kind of old-fashioned. If you set your bottom in it, then you would like squish down into it, because it's just a piece of fabric holding you up. I haven't actually seen one like that in a really long time, but that's what came to mind when I was thinking about a beach chair. I think nowadays they're aluminum and probably a lot easier to carry, but this was what I thought of, so I guess it's kind of classic. So I put a couple different colors of browns in there to make it kind of, a shadowed area and a lighter area. Then I've got my red stripes. Seems like that canvas fabric, if it's striped, is either striped with red or striped with blue, pretty much every time. Then I'm coloring in my little crab. He's considering coming up and saying hi onto the beach. Still in the water, but he's thinking about it. And I've got some seashells and sand dollars and things. A sea star. Just beachy stuff. The funny thing is that I'm sending these to Australia. The person that I'm swapping with this month is in Australia. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our summertime is their wintertime. So I'm not sure if they call it winter and we call it summer and then we just switch. I don't know. Or if they think that summer is cold and winter is hot. I don't really know that much about Australia, to be honest. I think it would be a really cool place to visit. I would like to visit there, and I'd like to go look at the Great Barrier Reef and, I don't scuba dive, but I could learn, or snorkel or something, but never been there, don't know that much about it. But I do think it's cold there when it's hot here. So perhaps these summer-themed ATCs will look very strange to her. I don't know. But she's very involved in the group, and she knows that a lot of us are American, so she won't be surprised. So I'm done watercoloring it, and I'm going to set that one aside for a while, and I'm going to work on the other one. So you remember I put the clear gloss gel through the stencil, and I let that dry. And now that has created a resist. And since the distress inks are highly water reactive, I can use this wet paper towel and I can go over the whole card and I can wipe off some of the ink, and the darker ink will stay there and the lighter and the other ink will be slightly removed. So that was the effect I was going for. That was what I was trying, and it turned out really cool, I thought. Then I went around the edges of my other card with watering can archival ink to create a border, because you know I don't like things without borders. And then now I've got my fine tip white Posca pen, because you also know I don't like things without white Posca pen. So I'm just going over and adding highlights, white areas to my coloring. And this is something that I frequently do, and you guys have seen me do it lots and lots and lots of times. I think it looks cool. I just like to do that to my illustrations. And when I don't do it, people are like, whoa, you didn't do it. So that's one thing about watercoloring that bothers me, is that I have a hard time leaving white when I'm watercoloring. I tend to like smoosh color all over everything, everywhere. I can't stop. And then there's no white space left. And so until I learn how to watercolor properly someday, I'll probably just be using my white Posca pen over everything to add highlights. So this one is done, and I'm going to add my signature and then move on to the other one. And well, first I'm putting this back on this. This has my name and the date and the theme and the group, and then it has my social media contacts. That's usually what you put on the back of an ATC if you're actually going to swap it. Okay, so this one, back to this one. I'm looking at it, that my intention was to make it a background, but once I looked at it, you know what? It said what I meant to say. It's showing the hot sun of Arizona, and there just really isn't anything that needs to be done to it. So it was a pretty quick and easy one. But I did decide to add some words, so I'm looking for words in my Tim Holtz chat, tiny talk chat, something, whatever. Stickers that have words on them. And these are really great for small things like ATCs and, you know, all those index cards I just did. So I picked out some to put on here, and I cut them apart, put them on to make it fit better. And then I'm going to use one of my Pitt pens, red, if I can ever get the case open, to just go around so that it doesn't look so stark on there. I didn't want to add black or anything. I went around the edges with the red archival ink as well. And I just, you know what? The only thing it needs is some gold splatters. That's all I felt like putting other things on there was just gold splatters. Because splatters, you know. So I just did that with some of my PBO metallic paint and called that one good. So that's it for me, and here comes your close-ups. Thanks. Bye-bye.